Great. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're here. This is here now, and I'm we are speaking with Steve Struggle over there in that Bohemia of the United States of America. I'm Dr. Ibrahim Weisfeld, PhD in political science here in Montreal, Quebec for the moment. And we've got a whole week of events that are happening in the what appears to be a world revolution against crusade, against imperialism, against colonial settler adventurism, all this sort of fascist nonsense that is ongoing and is being dropped on our heads. Well, then President Trump, the Trump, his real name, has denounced Antifa. Antifa is now what, a terrorist gang or something like that, and you could be shot on sight or something like that. Who knows? Anyway, this photo in area and behind me is the original Antifa. You know, this is the Jewish partisans who fought in the forest. This is some Russian forest encircled by the Nazi occupation, but they sustained, the resistance there, and the Nazis were never able to defeat them. They never conquered all of that territory because some of it was held, maintained by the partisans, the Jewish partisans predominantly. And then, like my mother's brother, Meyer Goldscheider is his name. And, and here's a bunch of partisans, both women and men. The women are participating equally. And you can see some of the equipment that they have. This guy here, he has just a sort of a single shot rifle, I think. That's all. And then this guy here, he's got the heavy machine gun, but only one. So they're very, very limited in the amount of arms that they had. And so it would seem that hardly anybody else is carrying an arm. Perhaps they had to share arms. That was a tough struggle, but they won. Okay. Meanwhile, the Zionists are saying, "Oh, well, you don't know what the world is like. You're so naive. You have to sort of, uh, you cannot respect any sort of so-called norms of international law because the fascists don't respect the law. So we can't respect the law either. We have to do whatever we can in order to get what we need to do." That's what the Zionist mentality is all about. But the partisans here, they were fighting against the Nazi occupation, and their code was one, take out the officers. Two, take out the soldiers who are, coming to kill you. And three, you take out the informers who are denouncing people who ended up getting killed by the Nazis in retaliation. That's all. No civilians. The Zionists, they couldn't care less, not even for their own civilians, not even for their own prisoners of war, who are soldiers. And you would think that they would have, great pride in their military prowess, and in their soldiers. No, they couldn't care less. The Hannibal Directive, allows them to decide by military logic that they can be sacrificed in order to get, to the fighters themselves who took them hostage in the first place. Oh, well, okay. I wonder what the hostages think about that doctrine. There's some 28 hostages, prisoners of war who are left, including a general or two, I understand, that are being held by Hamas. And they're being begged to release the hostages in exchange for withdrawal of the Zionist occupation. But in the agreement proposed by Trump, doesn't say when, how, who's going to supervise, who's going to replace that control. Like really, there's a lot more to be said before this is coming to an end. But the world is with Gaza. Incredible. Yesterday at the demonstration, we're there, thousands of us in downtown, just took over the downtown. The police just left. They were sort of, hanging around on the edges, watching what we're doing. And then, we were so militant and so numerous, that they just left. There was nothing there for them to do. We took over the balcony and in the Place des Arts, big cultural center, gigantesque, cultural center that exists in the center of Montreal. And, they use it as a balcony for a speaking platform. And then they had some union leaders, coming to speak as well to express their solidarity, like it was great. And the main theme of the demonstration was, to stop the arms trade. And the arms are being manufactured in Montreal. General Dynamics, is operating in Montreal. A lot of American military comes to Montreal, to manufacture war goods. Why? It's more profitable because they pay less in terms of a salary than they would in the United States. So they come here. Well, that has to end. But so far, Canada has only recognized Palestine as a state, as a word, as a name. That's all, but no content to it yet. And that has to be done. And the demonstrations are doing it. They're forcing the government to adopt a stance of solidarity with the Palestinian revolution, which is what it is, you know. But the Zionists are trying to pretend that this is, some Nazi pogrom coming to attack the Jewish people. Well, when they were attacking the Jewish people, they should have been out there on the streets, stopping them, but they weren't. They were, hiding in their meeting rooms, plotting, how to get more Jewish people, convinced to go to Palestine to colonize that on behalf of the Zionist state. And even then, when they could have formed an alliance with the Palestinians against the British occupation, refused to do so. I spoke with an Irgun member one time. I asked him, how come, like you didn't, form an alliance with the Palestinians if we're there already, and you didn't want the British occupation. The Palestinians didn't want a British occupation either, How come you didn't form an alliance with them? I said, oh, I don't know. We talked about it, no, couldn't think of it, like it was beyond, like conception, because they were so chauvinistic, so racist, so Islamophobic, so anti-Oriental, even though they were coming to sort of, occupy the Orient and they wanted to live there, not just occupy it. Very, like lack of perspective, to say the least. So the Jewish Bund, has its validity in rejecting that ideological perspective. And this is the Jewish Bund right here behind us. These are the partisans in the forest. And my mother's brother Meyer, he ended up, getting conscripted into the Red Army, and then he was lost after that. We don't know what happened to him. But my mother was out there too, in the resistance. She was out there digging ditches to stop the tanks from advancing any further. Civilians went out there, and dug, trenches so that the, equipment couldn't advance any further. And everything, helped. Everything slowed down the Nazis until they were bogged down in the wintertime and they were lost. They lost millions of soldiers, millions. Just in Stalingrad alone, they lost, a million soldiers who were encircled, and were taken prisoner and then sent off to a camp, and not many survived, I understand. So that was that, The Germany lost 8 million, okay? Jewish people 6 million, but much greater percentage of the population. Russians 27 million, Chinese 20 million, total of about 60 million people lost in that war. And now, they want Trump is authorizing the use of long-range missiles in Ukraine against Russia. Okay, they want another war. They're going to get it, but this time they're not going to advance any further than what they have. In fact, they're losing ground. And the Russian provinces of the Ukraine are now nearly all liberated now. There's only some certain 3 bulges left, in that territory that remain to be liberated by the Russian support forces. And then that territory will become a republic within the Russian Federation. In fact, they already have declared themselves to be so by referendum. So the World War is happening, but the World Revolution is stronger than the World War right now. What's happening in the United States? There's a lot of threats. Chicago.
Well, the United States is kind of in a bad situation, in my opinion, but people are fighting back. I want to share a couple images with you if I can get it set up here. If you want to share some images. Here's an image from yesterday.
Who are supposed to be sent to Chicago? It's getting serious.
Yeah, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Here's a demonstration yesterday in Los Angeles. It was interesting. There were two demonstrations in Los Angeles. I'm saddened that they couldn't have had one big demonstration or two with the same themes, but it is what it is in that respect. This is a demonstration called by civil society to support to oppose ICE deportations and ICE harassment and ICE brutality and ICE murders against immigrants. Most people who spoke were politicians, which is why I said it was civil society, but still it was a demonstration opposing ICE. I'm not sure how many people were there. You see some pictures here from PSL. Newspaper report from LA Times says some politicians talk, some union leaders talk. So this was a union-backed demonstration. The other one in Westwood at the at the Israeli embassy. There are no pictures from that. There's no news coverage of it even. As a matter of fact, it was so suppressed that when you tried to drive there, the streets were blocked off by the California Highway Patrol. You couldn't get off the freeway to go to the demonstration.
Whoa.
Yes, I know this firsthand. So we have the activists haven't responded to my phone calls. What's up with that? I don't know. So I wanted to share some information with you, but there was a demonstration. We're not sure how many thousand, kind of in a certain sense, commemoration of October 7th. Even though that's not the theme it put out, that was essentially what it was: commemorate the struggle that has emerged since that date. Um, so that's happening in the United States. There are demonstrations across the country supporting Palestine liberation yesterday. We know this as a fact. On the other hand, we're talking about Chicago. Now, Chicago was very interesting. Initially, Trump backed off of Chicago, sending the National Guard to patrol the streets. But there was some kind of altercation that occurred between ICE and some activists. I need to talk about that a little bit because it's not being covered well by as far as I'm concerned, the progressive press or the activist press. There have been news reports over the past 2 months of essentially an escalation in the self-defense tactics of pro-immigrant activists. I'm going to put it like that. So yesterday, an alleged escalation occurred. Some ICE or Border Patrol cars were rammed supposedly and blocked supposedly, and then when the ICE agent got out of his car, he shot people in a car that were part of this action. We have no videos from it. We can't confirm or deny all the facts. But an ATF agent a Border Patrol agent shot one of the protesters. She went to the hospital. She's been released. It's interesting she hasn't been arrested. That's what I find interesting. If she's supposed to have threatened a federal officer, an arrest is just, that's what happened. So apparently she must not have threatened anybody because she hasn't been arrested. Um, and because of this incident, Trump is now going to send the National Guard to Chicago to clean the streets, supposedly. He has already sent them to Portland, and they were blocked by a federal judge. See, a lot of this stuff that's going on. There's another law people haven't heard about. And I'm sorry I don't have the link to show you the video, but there's a law they're trying to pass in Congress that would allow the government to once they categorize you as a terrorist, a anti-Christian, an anti-capitalist, they can jail you and take away your passport. This hasn't gotten out of committee. I don't even think it's been in committee yet in the House. But this has been circulating. It's a law that it's a proposal that Trump made that's gotten very little coverage. Um, I did some research on this last night, and I found out that the black singer and revolutionary Carl Robeson, he's the first person I knew of that had his passport seized in 1950. They held it for 8 years, and they gave it back to him after a man or woman named Kent sued the government around this issue. And the basic Supreme Court ruling was that you can't take my passport based on my ideas. Since that, there have been further Supreme Court rulings involving Richard Nixon, Alexander Haig, the Communist Party of the United States that allowed the government to seize passports if you're deemed a national security threat. And this is where Trump's this bill that this guy from Florida is trying to get passed and it get moving through the House of Representatives. It seems as though that is the angle they're using, that if you are anti-Christian nationalist, anti-capitalist, pro-socialist, pro-Palestinian, you are a national security threat. And therefore we can take your passport and then essentially jail you. So that is the subterfuge, the plot of what's going on in the United States. Now, this idiot, and I do call him an idiot, Hegseth, he summoned hundreds of generals and admirals, summoned them, which meant them get on an airplane and get back to the U.S. for a lecture. That right there makes you wonder what the hell is going on. Because what he said basically is that they weren't worth a damn. And the army, I'm not into the army culture. I'm an anti-imperialist. So to me, the U.S. Army's history is despicable and represents nothing but Satan and evil. So I'm not for the army or the armed forces. However, how do you bring your brass in and tell them they ain't worth a damn? Who does that? Think about that. Who would dare do that? These are the men out there serving you. They're in the service of you, Mr. Hegseth, and you call them in to dress him down? I think his days in office are numbered. That's my opinion. Maybe wrong, because there are a lot of veterans in the United States. A lot of people have been members of their family die in combat. And for this man to say that what they've done is nonsense and their history is not, and they have to be more warrior-like and to oppose diversity. Remember, Hegseth was the first one to impose Trump's anti-diversity, anti-civil rights laws into the libraries of the U.S. schools on military bases where American children go to school, and also in the U.S. military academies, Army, Air Force, Navy academies. Their books that were taken off the shelves because they were seen to have been supporting diversity. So he showed himself to be a real racist in his actions. So that's what's going on in the United States. A lot of stuff, pro-Palestine, anti-ICE, but moves in Congress to deny passports and basically take away citizenship rights of those who are deemed to be enemies or terrorists. They're also the government is also considering, listen to this, making the Democratic Party a terrorist organization. Yes, this actually has been. You'll hear some people saying that they are too extreme. Yes, so a lot of madness going on in the United States. There's a lot of people who want something better, but the government is unrelenting in its attacks on the migrants. There's also a move. There was a move. I think it was quashed to arrest the 14 and over unaccompanied minors, arrest them and make them sign a document that would renounce their rights in the United States for them to be released. I think that was a block by a judge yesterday, but that's also being promoted by the government. So that's my report on that. Oh, also the revolutionary Assad Shakur died in prison, died in Cuba. You hear the
Mm,
news, and that's all. That's
yeah.
I just want to say I think it really shows the. I'm going to say this as a so the lack of. I think if a Palestinian activist died in exile, we would know something about their life. We
Mhm,
know nothing about 40 years of Assad Shakur's life. Nothing.
mhm.
And that's saying something about the movement's inability to do it, the state's ability to put fear mongering in people. If you do say anything about Assad, you might be arrested. So we know very little about her life when she was in Cuba. She did write a book, an important book,
Mm,
and it's just a shame
yeah.
that the work that went to free her from prison. There's a lot of people died, went to jail, went underground for her liberation in
Mm,
Cuba, and
mm.
we know so little about what her political work was in Cuba during exile. It just shows it just shows the real state of affairs of our movement right now.
Steve, I think this is indicative of the social media, which, does a lot of journalistic work, Gray Zone, etc. All of them, Democracy Now, Katie Halpern, they're all doing, like wonderful reporting, but they're not a revolutionary media. They
Right.
don't report on the revolutionary process
True.
underway. We do that. We are
Yes.
talking about the actuality of the revolutionary process underway throughout the world right now. Okay.
Yep.
But people are still afraid, to listen to us and to share what the work we're doing here, because they understand that this is qualitatively different here. Here in the here and now, we're talking about the revolutionary process, entirely legal. It's legal, to make a revolution because it's the right of the people to control their own societies. And if they have to defend themselves, they do so. But
Right.
so far, we're in a pretty good state of affairs. We're strong enough and we have enough of a tradition that we cannot be suppressed easily.
Right.
And so Trump is getting desperate and he wants to send a few hundred into Chicago, over that incident in which it was the ICE that was responsible for that confrontation and shooting somebody, and they're going to blame, the somebody, for having been shot. Okay, that's not going to go very far, I don't think. And if he tries to pull off some outrageous actions as a provocation, that he's not going to get the support that he thinks he's going to get. And even his own supporters are slipping away. He's down to what now? Who knows? Something less than 40% for sure. So we're on our way, and I felt really great yesterday at the Palestinian Solidarity demonstration. And there were thousands of people there. This is the hardcore from the whole city. And they were all there, thousands of people chanting, "We are the revolution." Imagine, in the midst of, thousands of people all shouting loudly, "We are the revolution." Never seen that before. Never before. But yesterday it was there. Yeah. But the flotilla got stopped. Of course it got stopped, like the Zionists, military are going to take that as a challenge. They want to prove, how efficient they are in stopping the flotilla, even though it was 40 boats. However, Greta Thunberg, was harassed, and I understand you told me sexually harassed even by the soldiers. But there was one boat that did get through into the shore of Gaza. That's not being reported on, not even Al Jazeera. So, the journalism, that exists, nowadays is just catching up to the revolutionary process. It's not leading it, it's not reporting on it. It's just letting people know so that people will continue to watch their media, because otherwise, if they didn't report on it, people wouldn't watch that media anymore. So they have to, but they're doing so at a minimal cost to their own credibility, and their credibility is based upon this supposedly objective journalism, which they report both sides. Well, there's not both sides. There is the revolutionary process of liberation, and there's the repression. Like it's only one process. It's either revolution or counter-revolution, and you have to choose. That's it. That's all.
Um, I want to share something I just came across. You mentioned the polling data.
Hmm.
So there's some polling data right here. So this is from a bulletin called Silver Bulletin,
Hmm.
and they do weekly aggregates of polling information about Trump and other things. So you can see that the disapproval rate is hovering still is still not high enough for me, but is hovering around 52, between 53 and 54.5%. The high is 58, the low is 48. So,
Hmm.
the median is going to be around 52, 53. Approval goes from 38 at a low, which is nice, to 51 as a high, which is just disgusting.
Hmm.
So Trump still has some support. These bourgeois um, stat based polls. So that it's just it is what it is. Okay, that's
Hmm.
just I just want to show the data and give our viewers Silver Bulletin as an option they can look at to see aggregate poll data about Trump's popularity from mainstream. And these are mainstream American polls: New York Times, Pew Research. I don't see Gallup here, but these are mainstream.
Hmm.
Um, considered viable, respectable polling agencies. That's all.
Hmm.
That's it. I just want to show that. Again,
Can
approval
you
goes
scroll down to
from
the graph that shows yeah, that's the one. So the blue
so
line is Trump.
no, this is immigration. So what they do here, this is based on certain topics. So immigration again, 45% approved, 51% disapprove, and you have a 5% buffer in there. The blue is looks like approval. It started off with great approval for immigration in February, but it's gone down from a high of like 52 to 45, which is a significant drop in my opinion.
Wow.
The disapproval again has gone up from around 46% to 50%, around 51%. That's on immigration. I don't
Wow.
know.
Why is that? Why is that?
Who
How come?
knows?
Wow.
Well, we get again, immigration is an issue that to me it borders on racism and xenophobia towards migrants, mostly Latin migrants, in my
Hmm.
opinion. You might see some against the Haitians in some parts of the country, but again, in some parts of the country, this is not the case. You see up here at the top of the immigration band, that's around 58% disapprove, and that will also give you a lower approval rating. So this again, we're not sure who they polled, when they polled, but
Hmm.
it's also out of the news. And migrant, the ICE raids are out of the news now too. So anything you hear about ICE raids now will be some incident that occurs where an ICE officer is or border patrol is assaulted by demonstrators, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
You
Hmm. Yeah, that gets coverage. Yeah.
know.
Hmm. Oh,
So
here's an interesting
this is
graph.
something more on immigration. I'm not sure the economy is just he's tanking on that. Inflation is the main thing he's tanking on. I mean,
Oh.
the inflation is just ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
Everything is higher. A pair of Adidas tennis shoes, $65.
Oh.
Adidas, we're not talking about, like a fashion name.
Hmm.
Adidas is a sports, it's little, sports casual tennis shoes,
Hmm.
65 to $70 on Amazon.
Uh,
That's
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Gasoline prices going up. I mean,
Hmm.
prices are not low. No, they're not. I mean, some stuff may seasonally go up and down, but prices are not low. And Christmas is around the corner. I wonder how that's going to work this year. We'll
Uh-huh.
see. Anyway,
Oh. This is a very interesting graph. This is very encouraging. So the inflation rate is, people are getting alienated, because of the
Yeah, like, yeah. I mean,
inflation.
that's the main thing. If you look at is the economy. The economy,
Yeah,
50% trade. Like a car, a Japanese car will cost you $40,000 for a Nissan.
yeah.
$40,000 for a Nissan. forty
Wow.
thousand bucks, and you cannot buy the Chinese BYD electric vehicle. Can't buy it.
You know how much they cost? The price of a BYD electric vehicle before
I've heard.
tariffs is $13,000.
Yeah, I heard. It's just.
Yeah, that wipes
Is
everybody
that?
else
I
out.
mean,
That's it. Like the
uh,
whole automobile
I
industry is,
mean,
like wiped
why? I
out,
mean,
with a number like that.
what I understand is why I can't. I mean, there's some way, not I. If collective eyes could go to Canada or Mexico and buy that car and bring it
Mhm.
across the border and have it here, and we gotta find some way to do that. It must be some law that says we can't do it.
Yeah, who
It
knows?
must be registration or something because if people could do it, they would do it, right? Yes, they
Yeah,
would. If they could drive into Vancouver or some of these border cities and buy the car and bring it back, they would.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
they would. So it must be some law that they can't sell it to you if you're not a citizen of the country or something.
yeah. Well, I haven't seen any BYD cars, here anywhere in Montreal. So I don't know. There's some sort of a problem getting them into Canada as well. Who
They're
knows?
making them, but they're making them in Mexico. They're making them in Mexico. They're making them in Mexico now. They make them there now.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
this is I've done some research on trade, and there are many states in Mexico, provinces in Mexico that are competing, like free land, free water, tax benefits. You know how they sell their soul to get anything brought to their area. Yes,
Yeah.
BYD and other Chinese companies are manufacturing in Mexico right now.
So that way they get into the NAFTA
Right.
economic
That's
agreement.
what
So they,
exactly the goal. They said they're not sure if they want to try it, but based on these laws, they could legally import them into the United States based
yes,
on those trade agreements
yes, without a tariff.
without a tariff. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So we'll see. And the second they get one, they'll be in line around the corner to buy it. Let me tell you.
Well, the American economy is being surrounded by all sorts of advances everywhere. Uh-huh. Okay.
Very much so.
Okay. This
Surrounded. Yep.
this
And
is
there was a
very
show
cool.
on I want to show you, but I can't show. There was a black woman from New York, from New York, went to college. She's a teacher, she's a journalist, something she is, middle class job. So she went to China
Yeah,
5 years ago,
yeah,
and she just says she can't believe how well she lives,
yeah,
how modern the cities are.
yeah.
I just ran across it and ran. She was showing her little apartment and a little furnished apartment. Her boss pays half her rent. Pays $250 a month for rent. Furnished apartment in a modern city with a subway that costs 25 cents. Who
Yeah.
wouldn't leave for that? I
And
would.
electrical cost per month is like counted in dollars and not in
Right,
hundreds of dollars.
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the
Well,
U.S. is having they're having some issues with this right wing agenda. I do think that Hegseth attacking the military is going to touch a few people's kind of thinking. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but the military is an essential part of American life and culture and history. And for him to tell people they were too woke, or we're against diversity, and you guys can't don't have a warrior spirit. I don't know.
I heard that some of the generals there were starting to chant Epstein, Epstein. Did you hear about
I
that?
don't know if they did any chanting during the speech. I heard they didn't say nothing,
Yeah,
but they could have said a lot of things. I'm not sure. I
yeah.
wasn't there. Anyway, here I'll stop the sharing. There you go.
Oh, so you're not a general. Oh,
Yeah,
who would have guessed?
yeah, Epstein.
Wow, the
Epstein,
United
yeah,
States
well,
is so weird. It's getting weirder and weirder.
yeah, it really is getting weirder and weirder. It's getting weird in so many ways that you wonder how long. Oh, but I'm sorry. Let me stop there. The one thing I want to just encourage our viewers to be aware of is the impending invasion or attack on Venezuela.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's a damn shame There's been no demonstrations about that. They're still killing people on these boats,
Mm.
and now they have this gang suppression force to go to Haiti.
Mm.
They changed it from the multinational security service support, which didn't get the money it needed. Supposedly, the gang suppression support gets some money. How, I don't know. We'll see if any soldiers show up this time. I doubt they're going to show up. Why would they show up now if they didn't show up before? I don't get how they can show up now. No one, no one but the Haitians, a few from El Salvador, Jamaica, Kuwait showed up in Haiti, and who else was there? Oh, people don't know that Jeff Prince's Veritas is now engaged in a drone war in Haiti. This is getting no coverage, but I covered for a different program. Um, they are bombing neighborhoods and killing civilians. There's a very graphic image in Haiti Liberté newspaper of some people who were killed by some drone strikes.
Mm.
So Haiti is not in the news, but they were able on the 1st of October to change the United Nations program to one of a multinational peacekeeping force to an anti-gang police force. So we'll see what happens now.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Yep. They're
Well,
they're definitely on a certain kind of aggressive tip in the Western Hemisphere.
uh, the I can report that in the Israeli civil society, that the support for Netanyahu is half-half. They're like split right down the middle there. I mean, which is, perfect recipe for civil war. But he doesn't have the support necessary to continue with the war in Gaza. So he's
What's he gonna do?
being pressured by the U.S., to find an escape hatch because they're losing it. They're losing, the world respect for not only Israel but for the United States. So they can't endure this, because they rely upon the prestige of the American allure, economy and freedoms, supposedly that exist, in the United States, as an example of something to follow, like the Georgia riots that are happening right now, in which they're surrounding the presidential palace, etc. And they seem to be sort of, inclined, to be promoting, a USA model, and yet they have no idea what that is, what's actually going on in the USA. So that allure, the reputation that the United States has, internationally, still hasn't dissipated entirely. It still exists out there and is being used as a tool to manipulate people.
Well,
So
but the one, but Abraham, the one area I think it has dissipated is travel into the U.S. Many people, it's reported, are reluctant. There's been an increase in the reluctance to enter based on ICE and the seizures and the imprisonment of people.
uh,
Uh, in that sense, you're right. In many other ways, you're right that media created image of the great melting pot, and you can do what you want and become successful. That propaganda. You're right. I think that still exists. But when it comes to travel, I do think that people are at least the reports I hear, travel has a diminished
yeah,
and is
certainly
less.
from Canadians. Canadians are not going to the United
Oh,
States
they
anymore.
should. Why should they? The person wants to take over your country. My goodness. I mean, come on. I mean, you want to go to a place when you want to travel somewhere. We're talking about making you a state of the United States. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Trump wants to give one state, for all of Canada. Okay, can you tell him, that I'm willing to negotiate, on behalf of Canada, and we insist upon 12 states, not one state, because we have 12 territories here, not
And
one.
also the initiation of a national health service that would be spread to all the United States.
Yeah, it would have to be because Canadians wouldn't give up their health care. No way. That would be
No, right.
war.
You have to have that. You
Yeah.
have to have some recognition of French, Spanish, and English as official languages. Now, in that problem with languages,
Yeah,
What
that's true.
else?
You know,
Well,
yeah.
okay, let's talk about some more thing than actually the
Yeah, let them
Canadian
try,
model.
you know, to to absorb Canada. You
Yeah,
know, like whoa.
the Canadian model has a lot to offer the United States. The United
Yeah,
States has very little to offer the Canadian model. Plus, let's have a real parliament, not a two-party system. Because
yeah,
what they would do is impose Democrat Republicans on Canada, and the Liberals and the other parties wouldn't even exist.
yeah,
Or they'll be allowed to spread in the United States and have real multi-party bourgeois democracy. So again, the Canadians have more to offer the United States than vice versa, in my opinion.
yeah,
The
yeah,
United States has nothing to offer Canada, in my opinion.
yeah.
That's my opinion. Nothing.
So now
Just
the
nothing.
Canadian oil is being cut off the United States and is being diverted with a new pipeline to the western coast to
Yeah.
send it off to China, Japan, and South Korea. Liquid natural gas as well is going off in another direction. No more water. The Colorado River is no more. You know,
How
it's not
about
a sort of
how,
unlimited resource for the United States anymore.
how about
Uh,
the right to so the passport would the combined Canadian U.S. passport give me the right to visit anywhere I can't visit now? See, these are questions. You talk about merging countries. These are serious questions because right now I can't go certain places that I have an American passport, but a Canadian passport I can go a whole lot more places than America. Yes, I can.
huh. Yeah,
So, like I said,
you know,
Canada has more
everywhere.
to offer the United States. The United States can ever offer Canada. That's why Canadians don't. Those idiots. I heard some idiots in Alberta who want to merge. They're probably the same ones that came there and started charter schools in Canada. Probably the same ones.
Oh,
Americans.
yeah. Oh, um, well, Alberta. Oh boy. Because they think they want to keep all the riches for themselves because they have most of the oil in Canada. So if
Right.
they think
Yeah.
they're independent, they don't have to pay taxes to Ottawa anymore. But end up paying taxes to Washington instead. I don't see what the
Yeah,
appeal is.
there's nothing.
There's no
Anybody who
point to it.
says that, I would love to debate them as an American. I would love to debate anybody in Canada. There's any benefits coming here. I'll wipe you out. I will just kick your butt in the debate. You have
Yeah,
nothing to say, but I'm sorry I even debated you. There's nothing America has to offer you. Nothing.
yeah.
For a capitalist state, it's a much preferred capitalist state the United States could ever be, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And this is Alberta and Saskatchewan also are talking about this. So like if they are talking about, splitting from Canada and joining the United States or becoming independent, if they can do that, then the First Nations who live there
Oh, of
originally,
course.
they could do so as well. They could
That's
claim
it,
the
exactly.
majority of the territory, like if they want to split, then the First Nation can split, from them as well. So, okay, try it, see what
Right.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm. And then there's Quebec. We'll see what happens. There's another referendum for independence that's being planned right now. Quebec could turn out, to be independent of Canada because the deal, from Canada it's not working out, because supposedly Canada was supposed to be a bilingual country, okay? So that everybody's supposed to know English and French. Okay, here in
Right.
Montreal, everybody knows both English and French.
That's
Here
not
it's
it.
bilingual in Montreal, but nowhere else.
Nowhere
Nowhere else.
else. Nowhere else yeah, nowhere else.
Yeah. No, it's not working, and the schools, they're not helping either. So, you know, and for Quebec, it would be very advantageous to do so because then they would have control over the St. Lawrence Seaway,
There you
and
go.
charge, passage, fees, like the Suez Canal.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe the time has come for that. Maybe
Yeah.
it's time to just split off from the split off and let's try something different.
Yeah,
Try
I don't
something
think the
different.
Quebecois are ready for that, because before, like staying as part of Canada was like staying part of North America and United States of America. It was sort of, that connection there,
But
which is
that's
now, has sort of melted away. So I think that will help to bring about a yes vote for independence here in Quebec.
mm,
And
well,
that's coming up. There's two independence parties here. One center right, Parti
mm,
Québécois. No, center sort of, reform. Parti Québécois. Then there's the center right, CAQ party, and then there's this center left party, Quebec Solidaire, which I helped to found, which is also in favor of independence. That's three parties that are in favor of either independence or autonomy. So, and then there's the Liberal Party, which was discredited a long time ago by the student general strike, which I helped to organize. And after 7 months, we won the reversal of tuition fee increases, reversal of the law 68, which allowed
Oh,
the police to arrest anybody who came out to demonstrate without a permit from the police. And since then, like the Liberal Party, which was the government at the time, lost its sort of credibility, and they've never recovered from that time.
well,
So
okay. Well,
I
they're
think
out.
that we'll
They're
never
out for
restore.
now. Forget
Yeah, they're
about
over.
them. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have a completely different party system here in Quebec as well from than that which exists in Canada, and which itself, is qualitatively different than what's you have in the United States. So there's movement. If Quebec,
Good.
moves out, and it takes the initiative like that, wow, it'll inspire lots of things to happen. Like next could be California. Who knows?
I would, yeah, it'll be very interesting if the California National Party would adopt a more militant position on secession, but they want to ask the Congress they want the U.S. Congress to give its secession. The U.S. Congress will never give its secession. That's not going to happen. So that strategy of following the U.S. law to me is ridiculous. If you want secession, if you want to be independent, if you want independence, you take it.
Yeah.
Maybe you vote for it. I don't know if you vote for it, but you're saying after Congress, who's going to do that? Because all they want is California's federal tax money. That's one of the main issues regarding California is all the money California pays in federal taxes, and what it gets back is so limited. A more successful one might be Alaska, because Alaska actually the people in Alaska don't like being part of the United States. They have enough oil. They don't even collect federal income tax from their people. They don't
Wow.
collect income tax
Wow.
and that should give you a check once a year for a couple $1,000. No other state does that.
To buy you off to stay in the United States. Wow.
No, 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 no. The state of Alaska gives you a rebate from the oil money, and they don't collect income tax.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Wow.
just saying that's a better model for independence
Yes.
because they've shown that they can sit there, they're self-sustaining.
And this is the
California gives,
Saudis, Alaska is majority First Nations, so they would have, a political legitimacy for doing so as well as an economic reason.
yeah, the First Nations actually cost the Republicans a defeat in the election a few years ago. Everybody was shocked. They thought that what's that the the wannabe movie star Sarah Palin thought she was going to win, and the Alaska Native said, "No, you ain't Sarah. You're not going to win nothing." They were stunned. She had nothing to say because they all the settlers in Alaska totally disbelieve in the power of the native people because now they're outnumbered, but they still occupy important parts of the state. The urban areas are not where it's happened. The state is occupied by native people throughout the state, not by settlers. Settlers are in they're in Southwest Alaska, South Alaska, Eastern Alaska, around the borders, but not where the oil and all and the silver and all the rare minerals are. That's still native occupied. That's where
Wow.
Native people have control. Many people don't know that.
Interesting.
That's
Very
where, yeah, it's in
interesting.
control because they occupy the areas where they have natural resources and oil and uranium and that kind of stuff. That's native occupied.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the settlers are, of course, in the cities. It's cold. It's cold in the north. People want to be warm, so they all go to Anchorage or wherever, Sitka or
Yeah.
that was no.
But it
That's
must be
it, man.
getting warmer because of global warming. Here in Montreal, we have
Yeah.
like summer weather here in the month of October, which used to be like
I
winter
know, I
time.
know, I know, man. Global warming, man.
Incredible. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good to speak with you again, Steve.
Okay, buddy. Appreciate that.
Great. Okay. Bye for now. And until next week, we are here and now, and we ask you to share.
Please share.
And
That's right.
yes, and because we need to have this carried forward, from person to person, because uh, people do not realize yet what it takes, to bring about, a social transformation. They don't know yet what a revolution is. They think a revolution is, just a bunch of people running around in the street, with guns. Uh-uh. Revolution
No,
is
it's
much
much
more
more than that.
profound, and it's first of all based upon ideas and consciousness. And that's what we are here to bring to you.
Okay. All right.